moment, how will we be remembered? Look at the opportunities before us.
This election really isn't about the left versus the right. It's about we, the people, choosing our government and the choice between freedom versus tyranny.
Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
What is going on here is deeper than politics. It is deeply spiritual. We are being called to rise above the hatred and the fear and the evil.
We need to remember above and beyond that we must love our neighbors, that we must treat other people as we hope to be treated.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
Don't you want healthy children? Don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again? The sweet emotion raining all over me.
I come to you today as a former Democrat. I will be a first-time Trump voter tonight.
The people dreamed this country, and it's the people who are making America great again. Making black new.
Good evening, Patriots. One of these weeks, I'm going to set up a separate camera so you guys can watch me backstage dancing to that song. It gets me fired up. I think that's why I stick with it as our pre-video instead of coming up with a new introduction. Hopefully don't have lipstick on my teeth. It is great to be with you. Welcome to the weekly Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Audit the Vote podcast. I am your host, Toni Shuppe, and I have a really special guest from the state of Arizona tonight that's going to give us some interesting perspective. But few things we need to get into before I bring her in. Please, 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 whatever platform you are watching us on, especially if you are on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, like, share this, and subscribe so that we can increase our reach. One of the things we're trying to do is monetize those accounts so they can become a revenue stream for us so that it can fund our operation. And I don't have to ask you all to donate nearly as much. But if you have some extra change and want to do that too, auditthevotepa.com, click on the donation button, and we appreciate your support. We have a long road ahead to the 2026 midterms. The 2028 presidential election, I still can't even wrap my brain around life post-President Trump. But we do need to start preparing, and it takes money to make the world go round. So thank you to those that support us. But right now, the biggest thing you can do is share this. Share this broadcast out. A lot of us woke up in 2020 and realized how evil the media was. Media, most effective devil in America. I love acronyms. That's one of my favorites. Well, a lot of us now jumped into the fray and have become or are trying to become the media, but we need your help to share it if we're ever going to get some traction so we can pass the torch of freedom intact to the next generation. So let me see the comments before. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified when we go live. Might do some lives that you don't see coming and you want to make sure that you know we are live. Can't watch it right then. You can always go back and catch the replay. We're also really upping our content in terms of reels and YouTube shorts and all that fantastic stuff. I know YouTube, don't get me started, YouTube and Facebook. They are the bane of my existence. I really don't like either company, but unless an Elon Musk is going to buy them like he did X and reformulate the platform, which it's also having its own issues nowadays, I'm of the mind that we kind of have to use it to reach the masses. So again, I know I hate YouTube, but if you're on there and watching it, please subscribe to our channel. Would like to try to get that monetized so it can fund our efforts. All right, two quick things we're going to talk about before I bring in my special guest. Number one, if you've been watching the show for a while, you all know I'm not only the CEO of Audit the Vote PA, an election integrity organization that exposed the fraud from 2020 and stopped the steal in 2024 in the state of Pennsylvania. You also know that I work for Rick Green Patriot Academy as the ambassador for the East Coast with their Constitution Coach program primarily, but starting to branch out into all their other programs. And we're going to do, if Joel could cue up a quick video. A lot of you have taken my Constitution class, Constitution Alive and Biblical Citizenship in Modern America, two separate incredible courses. If you've never taken, you need to go to patriotacademy.com, click on find a class and get into the next one that you can take. I know a lot of you watching this probably already have. Here's the great news. New curriculum is coming. Something new and fresh, focusing on the Declaration of Independence, since we're headed into the 250th anniversary of our nation's founding next year, July 4th, 2026. Think about that. Will be 250 years. And Rick has put together and launched a brand new curriculum to not only celebrate it, but to educate and equip citizens like you and me so that we can get active in our backyard and preserve liberty. So roll that. Hey, Mark, great to see you. Roll that Rebuilding Liberty video, and you might see a friendly face if I don't get edited out when the curriculum's all said and done.
Calling all patriots, the 250th birthday of America is right around the corner, and the work begins now. It's the perfect opportunity to educate America, to solve the civic ignorance problem we have with some civic literacy, teaching the principles of the Declaration of Independence, so that we're not just celebrating on July 4th, not just having a bunch of hot dogs and fireworks, and we're not just waving the American flag. We understand why the American flag is being waved. We actually bring to life the principles of the Declaration of Independence. Now, of course, we've been doing that for decades at Patriot Academy and at Wall Builders, but this is the opportunity to get millions of Americans to join us in understanding these principles of the Declaration of Independence. So we literally wrote the book, the blueprint for rebuilding liberty, just in time for America's 250th, and we want you to partner with us. So here's the plan. It's not complicated, but it does involve money and time. In fact, it's lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. I think I heard that somewhere, and we'll be teaching on that. So here's how you can be a part of it. We're going to work with the White House and with 100 different organizations that already are constitutionally oriented organizations, and they already have people in the field. And we're going to put 5 million people through the Rebuild Liberty course so that they understand the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. In other words, we're going to do what Ronald Reagan told us to do in his farewell address in 1989. January of 1989, he warned of an eradication of the American memory that would lead to an erosion of the American spirit, and that's what happened. So we're going to restore the American memory, and we're going to restore that American spirit doing exactly what he said to do, which is civic ritual. And the 250th gives us the perfect opportunity for that civic ritual. Now, we need 5 million informed patriots and 100,000 Constitution coaches to make this happen. That may sound like a lot, but we've already put 1 million people through these Constitution courses, and we already have 30,000 Constitution coaches. So with your help, with 100 organizations, with your donation, and with your organization stepping in to deploy this through your organization, we can make this happen. We can rebuild liberty across the fruited plain. Join us at Patriot Academy. Go to patriotacademy.com and help us rebuild liberty just in time for the 250th.
So exciting. My producer just told me there's a cameo of me in that, so I don't know. I might get edited out of the actual coursework. Hopefully not, but we did get to record that in Texas when I was there a few weeks ago. So July 4th, that course is supposed to launch. Stay tuned for details for a class hosted by me, of course, and then I'm sure Patriot Academy, Rick Green, they're going to do a national class, as well as our 30,000 Constitution coaches nationwide that will hopefully embrace this and get it out in their community. I am, of course, biased to this curriculum because it's what got me moving into action. I was clueless before. March of 2020, governor shut the schools down, and I went, what is going on around here? And that class, Constitution Alive, is what catapulted everything. Karen and I took it together, and our lives have never been the same. Some ways not so great, some ways awesome. God is on the throne and we are moving forward, rebuilding liberty. Joel, pull up the website. One other thing I just want to highlight, because we're headed into Leadership Congress season for Patriot Academy. And if you are like me and have taken classes before, you know about the coach program where you can host classes, but you have no clue that there are other programs involved. And I will be the first to admit that I didn't see the value in any of these until I came on staff as an ambassador and then started going to them and immerse myself in them. And now I'm like, holy cow, everybody needs to do this. So Leadership Congress, Rick has been doing for over 20 years. They started in the Texas state capitol in Austin, where he would bring young people between the ages of 16 and 25 in and put them through a legislative simulation, immerse them in the process, teach them how to write a bill, how to argue a bill in committee. How do you get a bill out of committee? What is a committee? That was me I didn't even know what a committee was when this all started. And then how does it get to the floor and debated? And how does a bill actually become law? So 16 to 25-year-olds have a chance to get immersed in that entire process, also get leadership training, speaking training skills, and they travel today, fast forward, all over the country and put these on in state capitals around the nation. And Joel, if you'll keep scrolling, there's a list of these coming up. The first one kicks off next week, Rocky Mountain Leadership in Colorado. Yes, Denver, Colorado is where they will be next week, June 2nd through the 6th. And as luck or fate or whatever you would have it, call it, that also coincides with the great Mike Lindell's lawsuit against Eric Coomer for defamation that is also going to kick off on June 2nd. Or if you are in the state of Colorado and you are under the sound of my voice, please look at and consider supporting Mr. Lindell on June 2nd as he kicks off this trial against Eric Coomer. We may finally get vindication on the machines. We may actually get to a point where real evidence can get submitted in a court of law showing how insecure all of our electronic voting machines are. So that remains to be seen, but that kicks off, of course, next week, June 2nd. And you can go down through the list and see there's one in Idaho, Florida, Dover, Delaware. I believe I will personally be at the one in Dover, Delaware, trying to gather anybody that just wants to see more about this for a little bit of a sneak peek, not attending the entire event with the students, but just kind of get a sneak peek. And then if you yourself would like to attend and go through this entire thing, which I highly recommend, you get the chance to do that in August. They have a National Leadership Congress where they're building a campus for this in Fredericksburg, Texas. And you can attend if you are just a Constitution coach like me. So what happens if you're out of the range of 16 to 25 and you want to do this? You can either come as a Constitution coach, which is free to sign up to get you access to it, or if you're a military veteran, you get access. So we call it MilVet and we call it Coach Congress, and we get together, and I went my first time in the summer of 2023. And again, quite frankly, I would not have gone if I wasn't on staff because I didn't get the value. But when I left, I'm like, this is truly how we rebuild liberty and save the nation. We have people that run for office and end up becoming legislators at the state and the federal level that don't have a clue how to write a bill. They don't understand how to get it off the ground, what language, how the language can be used against you, nothing about the process. This is the training ground for how we fix things long term, because many of us are looking way beyond what we woke up to in 2020 and saying, how do we do this for the next generation? So you can close that down, patriotacademy.com, click on the programs link and under Leadership Congress to get more information, or you can always reach out to me. My email address there, one of the feels like 100 that I have, Toni with an I at patriotacademy.com. But I've been talking way too long already without bringing in our special guest. I am very excited to spend some time with her. Gail Golec from the state of Arizona, I believe Maricopa County of all places, is going to join us. Gail hit my radar again. I don't remember the first time we met. We were talking backstage and she was saying we met at a Lindell event in the summer. For those that don't know, Gail has been in this fight since 2020, boots on the ground, Arizona, which is one of the reasons I wanted her to speak to everybody tonight. Because like many of you, we don't trust the media. We know the mainstream is lying. And we're even starting to discover that some on the right that we thought were on our side might be skewing things a little bit as well. I trust boots on the ground that I personally know and have had an experience with way before anything that I see on the internet. And so Gail and I met a while ago, but we didn't really work much together. We would just see each other on podcasts. And she was in a Twitter space a week or two ago that might have been hosted by Brandon Strzok. I don't remember. All the Scott Pressler drama, hoopla. We might get into a little bit of that tonight. She was talking on there. And when I saw her, it was like a familiar face, like an aha, somebody that I know isn't crazy. Yay. Because even in the movement, every level of this has its own level of guerrilla warfare navigation, trying to figure out who can we trust? Do I have to vet their information? Is it legit? Go ahead and bring her on screen, Joel, if she's still with us. But so I reached out to her after that Twitter space. Hi, lady. How are you?
Doing so well, Toni. Such a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for the invitation. It's been great just getting to talk to you again behind stage. And, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. Thank you
Me
for all of your
too.
work, too, that you are doing in Pennsylvania. I mentioned it before, but it really would want to make sure that everybody understands what an impact you have had in Pennsylvania, but not only in Pennsylvania, on across the United States, because people are understanding what they need to do in their own state, how they can audit, what they can do with the voter rolls, what they can do with the cast vote records. A lot of that stuff is because of some of the things that you are doing as well. And not only that, but you are really holding people to their foot to the fire, and making sure that people understand that these elections are rigged, can be rigged, and will be rigged again if we do not continue to fight. And so that's what we're here tonight to do, is talk a little bit more about how we can all continue to fight, and a little bit more about what this fight has been like for both of us.
Right?
Right?
Because we're both just regular people that had normal lives until 2020, right?
So true. So true. I You would ask me to tell you a little bit about my background. So
Yeah, tell me a
I
little bit.
was
How did you get into politics? Like, what was your normal life like before, and how did you get
well,
into it?
I was actually a precinct committeeman before
Well, you were a committee
all
woman,
of this.
right? Because you're not confused about that. You were a committee woman.
Yeah, I'm all woman. Hear me roar. And
We have to clarify that nowadays, Like, my
correct.
kids are gonna date,
Absolutely.
and they're gonna have to sit down. I have 3 daughters, and they're gonna have to go, "So you were always a man, right?" Like, how scary is that?
Uh, Yeah, I am 100% woman, but the actual title is precinct committeeman, and I'm actually a state committeeman and a precinct captain as well. And so really what that role is, and you can go to precinctstrategy.com to learn a little bit more, but
So
what
they
that
don't
role really
distinguish
means.
in Arizona, the precinct committee man or woman. They do in Pennsylvania. That's why I was correcting you. It's they don't do that in Arizona, it sounds like.
No, they don't. They
Okay,
don't.
keep going. Sorry.
So that's all right. No, it's quite all right. Yeah, but basically our job is to really help our precinct, which could consist of, actually, the average precinct is 1,100 people across the United States, which I found that to be really interesting. I digress a little. One vote in person count at the precinct level. There's no reason, even if we had 100% voter turnout, we could not count our votes and our ballots by hand on election day by precinct. We could do it. Go to a school, go to a library, go to a senior center, go to a rec center, go to where you're voting. You can do it. So, and God knows we've got the people to volunteer. People are, let's just say, pissed off patriots will be there. And there are a lot of them out there.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I just got into it with it. We had a primary election a week and a half ago in Pennsylvania, and I had a good, healthy, civil discourse with the judge of elections, who is not a fan of hand counting, but we had some great conversation back and forth. And I do think that just with a little bit of time and explanation, that we can turn the tide. How did they do it? Think about it. Before 2000, I remember Y2K. I remember my mother being like totally freaked out that the world was going to go up in flames. I was in my early 20s, not a Christian yet, and just having a blast. 1999. But life before that, they counted paper ballots by hand. It's not like it's never been done ever. And yet people just some of them can't seem to wrap their brains around it. But yes, let's get it passed. Hopefully President Trump is going to do something that will require that. And then you and I are boots on the ground that are going to swoop in and help them figure it out.
Well, we will. We will. There are a lot of places that you can go to learn about hand counting and how to, there's a hand count roadshow that Mark Cook put together. There
I have
is,
to get him on
oh
here
my
too. I
goodness,
got to reach out to Mark and get him on here too.
yeah. Oh, come on. What is her name? She's so awesome out of Ohio that did the hand count as well. Um,
I know Linda
mm.
Rants from Missouri.
Linda,
Linda.
Missouri. That's right. Linda Rants from Missouri. Thank you. She's amazing as well. She put something together. I think she was on Brandon Struck's ex extravaganza about
That's
Scott
what we'll call
Pressler as well. Yes.
the
Anyway,
extravaganza.
there were a lot of great patriots there that were really talking about, the value of hand counting ballots and not early voting on there. And that was really the crux of the whole thing. It wasn't really a Scott Pressler takedown. It was about, listen, we all know, we grassroots people that have examined the data on the ground, we have looked at it, we've evaluated, we've looked at the cast vote records, we've looked at the voter rolls, we've looked at exactly how they are cheating. We just can't get it through the corrupt courts, but we see how it's doing, and early voting equals early cheating. And that is a fact. And so just trying to get that message out there and having Brandon, thank you, Brandon. If you're listening tonight, we hope you are, but we just really need your voice. And we're so grateful that you are allowing your platform to share the truth that early voting equals early cheating. And we are up against people like Turning Point USA and that are really promoting that. And in truth, they've got an app, Early Vote Action, that they're making money off of, and it's not about really what happens. While they might believe that it's low propensity voters, adding more low propensity voters to an already corrupted database does not help the cause.
Yep.
We want people to vote, but we want educated voters. And going full circle, that's where a precinct committeeman comes to play. We go door to door, we knock on doors, we educate the voters about who we in the Republican Party, I represent the Republican Party, want to get through the primary and get, through to the finish line. And so the biggest problem we have with that right now is the lethargy, because we know that our elections are rigged. And we know this for a fact in so many different ways, and we have proof of it in so many different ways. And we don't have the
Anybody that thinks
justice.
Carrie Lake legitimately lost in 2022, like, come on. Like, I was on the ground in Pennsylvania, as devastated as I was that Senator Mastriano did not win. Because of what we saw on the ground, we knew the money discrepancy with him and Shapiro. The fact is, there were Republicans who said they couldn't vote for him because of the abortion issue and Christian nationalist. The media tore him to shreds. I don't know what it was like on the ground in Arizona. Maybe you can speak to that. But I heard from other folks at the time that she had a ton of momentum. There was nowhere near the pushback for her that was in Pennsylvania for him. And so while we have evidence to suggest there were shenanigans that happened, certainly Republicans who voted by mail in 2022 did not all vote for Mastriano. They crossed over because he got less votes via the mail ballots from the Republicans, because we can distinguish between the two. When you request a ballot, your party affiliation, even if it's not affiliated, is attached. So that's how we can discern this. He got less votes than Republicans who returned mail ballots, which we have seen as a trend, is indicating people that vote by mail, even on the Republican side, don't always vote for their candidate, but the Democrats do. So we're literally just handing it to them. But all of that aside, can you talk a little bit about, if we could, and we'll ping pong all over the place, but the Carrie Lake, there's no way she legit lost. Talk about Carrie Lake, the midterms in 2022. From your perspective, what happened?
Well, I can tell you 100% that that based upon cast vote records and how the Edison data was coming in, like Jeff O'Donnell is a genius database and analyzer who actually worked on the Mesa Report 3 along with, I don't know why I'm having a problem with the names, Dr. What's his name again? Oh my gosh, Dr.
There's so many of them. I don't know. But Jeff, I have to get Jeff on here too.
Doherty, Dr. Doherty. Yeah, so the two of them, I was going to look it up on my phone. Doherty, they put together the Mesa Report 3. Anyway, that's in Colorado, where Tina Peters, by the way, is being held hostage and a political prisoner for doing her job. Oh God, I'm just going to ask right now that we just pray for freedom for Tina Peters. I just have to take a moment to share with you because she, like you and me, was just a regular person who decided to step up and run for office like I did in 2022 for Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. That was not anything in my plan, this is what
how amazing would that have been if we had gotten you on that?
Oh, listen, in hindsight, I look at it as, well, I know it was like Carrie Lakes, and I can get back to that, but God protected me because there was so much evil. There is so much evil in that Maricopa County Board of Supervisors that I probably could not have withstand what they're doing to Trump. They could have done to me, and I don't think I could have withstood it. So God protected me, but gave me a platform to speak truth and get the information about the election. So I did what he asked me to do, and that's all I can say about that. But Tina Peters needs to be freed, and we asked President Trump to, look at the federal supremacy clause that these elections, she did what her job was, is to back up the data on the server before Dominion came in and changed the databases. And they're talking about it right now in Arapahoe County as well. They changed the databases to try and reflect what the outcome was. And we found that out. And then through that, we found cast vote records and this is where Jeff Donnelly comes in. So amazing. Jeff Donnelly and Mike Lindell at one of the summits, he called for the cast vote records. And just so for our viewers, so that they understand what a cast vote record is, it's the sequential data that comes in to show how the vote was cast and how they were counted as they were coming in. And so you can see there's no identifiable information as to who voted and how they voted, but the fact that they voted for this person at this place and time.
So let me interrupt you to give you some update. Pennsylvania, we have been locked out of that. We can't get cast vote records. By some act of God, I'll call it a miracle, we ended up getting some for the 2020 election in Allegheny County, which is Pittsburgh of all places, showing that 60,000 ballots are missing that were counted in the presidential race. So we went to court to try to get the rest of them, and they've stiff-armed us every turn. Heather Honey with PA Fair Elections is still battling over that stuff. But in Pennsylvania, unfortunately, we have not been able to get cast vote records, and our courts have basically ruled that we're not going to. It's still in the appeals process, but continue on the cast vote records, because Arizona, it sounds like you can get them. So tell us what you see.
Well, let me tell you, we did get them, and I got them for 2020 and 2022. But guess what? We can't get them anymore in 2024. Yeah, you tell me. Now they're saying it's illegal to have them because, of course, they know exactly what they can get from this information. The information, like you can find this information on fingerprintsofraud.com, which is Jeff O'Donnell's movie, or on my Rumble channel at Gail Golec, GAILGOLEC. You can also find that there, but you can see that the cast vote record shows an algorithm. And this algorithm was the same algorithm that was used in multiple counties in multiple states, the exact same algorithm.
See, what
And
should be, I think, a biggest red flag is the fact that these machine companies won't let us look to get to the bottom of this. Even if you're someone that thinks that we're all nuts, election fraud isn't real, they're machines, you don't have the proof to show that the machines are rigging anything. Here's what you need to know. We don't have the proof because they won't let us get in there. And that should be a red flag no matter who you are, because there's no transparency when it comes to counting the votes. All that to say, there is other stuff like what you're talking about to prove that there are shenanigans, which is, I believe, why they don't want us looking. Continue. Sorry.
oh yes, of course. No, please. I could just keep going, and because I just like this vast amount of information, that I just would love to get out to everybody. But the cast vote records are really important, and if you can get them, this is another way that you can help. Please request them, and send them to the Lindell organization. We'll get them to Jeff O'Donnell. Go to the LoneRaccoon.com. He will also get them to send them to me. Whatever. If you can get those cast vote records, we're going to get that information to you. But the problem is that now that they understand that we could actually audit the election and see what's happening. What a concept. Yeah.
Like, that's a bad thing. Like, hello, Doge it all, people. Everything, top to bottom, school board, city councils, congressmen, Doge it all.
Yeah.
Why would we
absolutely, not? Absolutely. So we definitely need to be able to get the cast vote records. And by the way, it is something that is required in the Help America Vote Act, which is federally, it's a federal act that was established in 2002 that came in right after the hanging chads.
How convenient.
Oh
yes,
yeah. Right
Doge it all.
Yeah. And so what happened was we brought in the machines at that point, but there were certain standards that we must meet, and one of those standards was to be able to audit the vote, and they are absolutely on a paper ballot. But here's the thing, there is no way to do it really without a cast vote record. That is one of the only ways. A lot of these counties, they will say that a partial audit is good enough, and it's going to represent the whole thing, and it's not.
Our
And
courts, listen to this. I bet you didn't know this, Gail. Our courts, this is what their argument was against giving us the cast vote records. They had the audacity to suggest that if they do, then it might be possible that we could figure out how an individual voter did vote. So what they're telling us is, since they have access to the cast vote records, it's okay if they know how we vote, but not the public, just the government. Is that like completely obliterate the secret ballot? Like, they literally talked themselves in circles in the courtroom and somehow still ruled against giving those to us. It was insane. Sorry, I interrupt. Keep going.
It's such a valid point, because constitutionally in Arizona, although I don't agree with it, that we do have a constitutional requirement of a secret ballot. So if it's either secret or it's not, there is no in between. So if the cast vote record is not secret, then it's not constitutional.
Amen.
And
Amen.
so, but the bottom line is, you need to have the cast vote record. It is mandated by the Help America Vote Act. And one of the other things about the Help America Vote Act that every state and every person should know is that it does say specifically that nothing in the act constitutes a way that, let me see, nothing in the section. Let me see if it says, if I can look at it. Nothing in the section about in this section shall be construed to prohibit a state or jurisdiction which used a particular type of voting system in elections for federal office held in November 2000 from using the same type of system after the effective date of this section, so long as the system meets or is modified to meet the requirements of this section. So basically, it's saying that this is protecting the paper ballot voting system. So if we get into it, we can go back. And here in Arizona, we have had, the people, the AG's interpretation, Chris Mays, the illegitimate AG here in Arizona.
Who ran against him or her in 20? Was that Abe Hamaday that ran against her?
Yeah, Abe Hamada. Yep,
And Mark
absolutely.
Fincham was your Secretary of State candidate that they stole that one too, I think, right? Something like that.
Well, yeah, they could steal everything that we're doing. This is something else I wanted to talk about, but we have a database administrator in Maricopa County. Oh, I think we lost the links in here in our chat. So I'll get back to it and I'll get those links in there. But we do have a database administrator by the name of Brian Ramirez.
Yes, we have stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
This is current stuff that you sent me, right?
Yeah. Let's
Joel, pull up her Twitter, the first Twitter link that she sent us.
Let me just here, copy link. Here we go. Let me just see if I can put it in the chat here. I've got this one in here. That'll work. I just put it in the chat. So Brian Ramirez is the current database administrator, and he has been a database administrator for Maricopa County since 2017. However, we know for a fact in 2020 that there were some shenanigans going on. I don't know if you can hear this. I'll let you play it.
Yeah, they can. So is this a video? It's 40. Joel, back it up and see. Okay. It looks like it's only about a minute long. See if we can.
When you share the screen, you have to make sure you added audio to it when you share it.
He'll get to it if he can back it up. Sometimes it doesn't let you back it up. So we'll give him a few minutes to try. Hang with us.
So yeah, absolutely. You know what? Let me just share with you a little bit. I'll go back while he's getting this to the audio to work. I was just a normal. I was.
Here's the deleting of the logs, and this is when the logs or the database deleted the server logs. Well, I went back to our logs, and guess who it is?
Brian.
I know who that data guy is.
Database administrator, Bachelor of Science, Computer Forensics. What a great person to have on your team to take care of things when you need to get rid of something. Christy Passerai let him into the server room. Here's the access basically showing her letting him in. And then here's the deleting of the logs. And this is when the logs or the database was deleted. Here she is letting Brian into the server room about that time. And here he is getting on the console. And you guys know the rest of the history for that.
Look at the date on that video.
She's not in the room
So
at this point, right?
No, she's not. He's unsupervised. Remember, the county policy is 2 people should be in there. And again, this is another law broken because he's probably altering data in there by himself.
Share this, people, with your election denying friends that think we're all crazy.
Okay, Matt, we have
Matt Van Bibber. He is in Pennsylvania. Gail, what a small world. I've been connected with Matt since May-ish of 2021 when the Maricopa County cyber ninjas were auditing in Maricopa County. I got connected with him way back then. He's done incredible work in Pennsylvania, and I can't believe that's the video you sent me. I'm like, I know that voice. Oh my gosh, it's Matt. That's crazy.
Yes, he is amazing. This whole thing, and again, look at this. I mean, we've known about that since I posted that in 2022. And so we're going on 3 years now, and this man used the security badge of his manager, and went into the server room, which by law he was supposed to be accompanied, but he was unaccompanied, and deleted system logs. And then further, we know that he deleted databases, which Representative Andy Biggs talked about it in Congress. And if you go into that link, maybe we can put it, it's somewhere in the description or whatever, my post there. You go into the link, you can listen to the congressional testimony of Representative Andy Biggs talking to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, who they said, yes, we deleted files, but we archived them before we handed them over to the audit. And since they didn't subpoena archived data files, we didn't provide them. And so we have, and now we know what they've actually deleted, right? We have that. And so one of the reasons why we have, this is so awesome, I love it. One of the reasons why we have some of the data files is kind of going full circle back to Kari Lake as well, is during the Kari Lake trials, during the discovery process, somebody made a mistake in Maricopa County Recorder's Office. Whoopsie! And they sent they sent actual data to us that we could evaluate. And they sent data that showed that the database administrator, 4 days after the 2020 election, they deleted 150,000 ballot images and replaced them with other ballot images.
Oh, Mesa County? Ring any bells? Mesa County,
Yeah.
Colorado? Tina Peters?
Arapahoe County, Colorado, America altogether. When you have things digital, they can be deleted and replaced. And unless you're looking at the actual paper ballot, which, by the way, people will say, oh, well, Arizona did an audit. That was a fraudit. Okay. That was not an audit.
So tell us what went wrong, because that's how I got connected with Matt, was through the Maricopa County audit. I even ended up on the phone with Doug Logan briefly, Cyber Ninjas guy. What happened in Maricopa? Just give us something from someone on the ground.
Well, I can tell you this. One of the key things is that we had a forensic report done by Eric Spakeen that, Eric as
yes,
well.
He's done stuff for us in Pennsylvania. Yes. Okay.
Okay, right. So he's a forensic analyst, a renowned forensic analyst. And what was happening is during the audit, we had a lot of people talking about the fact that they were getting batches and batches of Biden only ballots. Just Biden, the only thing, Biden only. And by the way, the security seals were broken on all but 50 boxes. Everything out, like 250 other boxes were completely open. There was garbage in them. The security seals were broken on everything before the audit. And
that's not a red flag. No big deal.
That's not, nope. And then we had all the duplicate ballots that didn't have matches. And by the way, that stuff was in the audit report, that we had duplicate ballots that didn't have a regular ballot that was attached to it. So that was reported on, but no problem there. But the biggest thing was that were 35,000, and I can put the link again in here, 35,000 ballots, and there was a 7,500 ballot vote discrepancy between the supposed Biden win and the Trump loss. But there were 35,000 ballots Spakeen identified as, let's just say counterfeit, for lack of a better word, because they were duplicated, replicated, you could see the exact same oval in the exact same shape. And in this report, it shows all of it. Now, mind you, that report was provided to Doug Logan and the Arizona Senate on September 17th. September 24th was the day that the Arizona audit report was presented to the Senate by Doug Logan. None of that was mentioned.
I get PTSD, Gail, because I remember exactly where we were in our fight back then. Oh my God. This is just.
I know. So if Doug Logan would have presented that information that Eric Spakeen had found we might have been in a whole different situation. But instead,
what do you think happened? Why didn't he? What? Because I got on the phone with that guy. What the heck?
I've talked to Doug several times, obviously, too.
So what happened?
So the way he presented it, by the way, and you look at the report, it says that the paper ballot, the evaluation of the paper ballots will be forthcoming. So he decided, because Jovan Hutton Pulitzer was also doing a audit of the ballots and looking at everything, and we did digital imaging of each and every ballot from front and back, and we had Arizona people from all over the state, young, old, wheelchair bound, everybody, we had people there, and people have seen the videos of the circles and the colors and
Yeah.
everything like that. And just,
But why
we
didn't
had
Doug Logan say what would have been? Why do you think he didn't report what would have been most impactful? That was in the report, but he chose to leave it out. Why?
This is just, theory, right? I don't know. I don't,
Okay.
I don't really know. So I will give you my best guesstimate.
Okay.
He was being attacked, would be one thing, right? And then he wanted to save face, and he was threatened if he did put this information out there.
Financially,
And
they destroyed his company. I know that they were
Correct.
destroying his company. Yep.
The other thing is that there were here's some these are facts. We had an attorney by the name of Corey Langhofer, who was representing the Arizona Senate at the time. He was he also represented Mitch Romney previously to that, okay, on his presidential campaign run. Okay, this is the guy that they had. And then Karen Fann, who was a Senate president, was relying on Corey Langhofer's advice, right? But then right after she decided to, which I also exposed as well, decided to forego getting the audit, the router logs, and remember that, right? All of
Yes.
that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And she
we are so intertwined, and we just haven't ever really connected to talk about all this. But yes, we have to have you back.
Yeah.
Go
So the
through more
router
of this.
logs, and then she also brought in a third-party auditor, which could not look at the IP addresses and bring it back. It was just this whole kind of corruption. And then as soon as she got into the deal with the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors to hold them harmless of everything, she got oh my gosh, what was in the millions, was it 400 million or 40 million $1 contract for the paving, probably 400 million dollar contract for the paving for her family business for the interstate I-17 to do the reconstruction within a week after that. And she retired. So all of these things happened. So there was a lot of reasons.
She rode off into the sunset with her.
So, yep. With her family's money. I could give you that link to my Rumble channel as well. I called her out on that.
Gail. When are we gonna have time to write books? We gotta get all this stuff.
We do. It's pretty amazing, the stuff that we've gone to. And again, going full circle, just an ordinary person, just doing these things. And I have an IT background. I set up local area networks for small to medium businesses in the Chicagoland area prior to moving to Arizona. I had over about 30 years IT experience. And so but I had no idea about how the elections were run, because I, like you, I just, went and put my vote in and just assumed everything was okay. I learned all of this on the ground, grassroots, because I love my country and I want every ballot to count as cast. That's it. And not only that, God has called me to do this. I can just tell you, because I could not have done this without the leading and the Lord, and just really just calling me to do this and just walking in faith. Because my favorite scripture is, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And so this is our hope. This is our future. And for me, that hope and that future is all about making sure that our ballots count as cast again, and that we get them hand counted and we get rid of these machines, because when we do that, the rightful people will be voted in again, and we can get rid of these people that are not voting for the Doge cuts that we need, and not and protecting the children, and making sure that our skies are not filled with poison, our land, air, our water, through the SRMs, the dimming of the sun, and and these are, people want to call them conspiracy theories, but all you have to do is look up on a daily basis and you'll see it. I don't care where you live in the world, that's happening right now. So all of these things can be happened if we can get our votes back. Everywhere. I remember one time, I think all of South America has pretty much been taken over by the Dominion machines, or the machines counts, except for Brazil, right?
And we can't
Argentina was the first to fall.
We can't just wait on. I read Patrick Byrne's book, The Deep Rig, early, before I think we really even, it might have been before we started the petition in Pennsylvania, or right when we started it. But he talked about studying as a cybersecurity expert himself. He's a brilliant human being, love him or hate him, whatever. We've on the ground,
Right.
Gail and I have learned, not everyone's a mixed bag. First of all, nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Some people have good motives. Some people don't have good motives. And even the ones that have the best motives sometimes slip up or don't make the right call. It is what it is. But so Patrick Byrne, love him or hate him, the man has put a fortune into saving the country in one form or fashion. So he wrote a book, He wrote a book,
Yes.
The Deep Rig, and I read it, and he talked about studying elections in 2018 in South America, noticing that when they were quote unquote stolen or shenanigans or questionable, the tell was they stopped counting. I remember thinking back then, this is so clear. Like, that's exactly what they did here. At the time, thinking there's no way we're going to have to live through 4 years of Biden. Certainly, we're going to expose everything, and it's going to come to a head, and Trump will get his rightful place back in the White House. It didn't pan out that way, but my point of interjecting here is, this is not President Trump being back in the White House is a temporary reprieve. If more people don't do what Gail has done in Arizona, what we've done in Pennsylvania, what other people have done all over the country, we need more of us. We're not trying to raise up any one person, which is kind of the issue with Scott Pressler, not to go there, sore subject, probably for some of you. I know you're sick of hearing it. I did write an article today. I'm going to put a plug in for this. If you're not following me on Substack, I wrote an article. It's free. I haven't put stuff behind paywalls in months. So read it. It is bare bones, just me being real, my experience with him from day one. You might have to put your email address in and subscribe as a free subscriber to be able to view it. I don't know how Substack, exactly how that works, but just read it. It's real, it's raw, and share it. And we have very real concern. I called it the whole Pressler shebang. This is it. I'm still trying to give the guy some benefit of the doubt, but share the truth of why we're so concerned, because he appears to be somebody who just wants to elevate himself. And where there's folks like Gail and I that have been on the ground screaming for years, that know that there's deeply rooted issues baked into these systems. And it's a little bit, I say that sarcastically, of a red flag that he won't even let anybody ask him a question. A little bit of a red flag. So go through this. I took my time. I wrote this out. I actually had a couple people look at it before I published it. What do you think? I'm not trying to inflame anybody. We're not trying to cause chaos or infighting. We are trying to hold people accountable, because the reason our government got to where it's at, where we are just sifting on a daily basis through this guerrilla warfare sloth, is because people weren't held accountable along the way. And when somebody does come in and try to hold someone accountable, you get attacked by quote unquote fans of this whole thing that are just like, why would you question them? because that's, if we don't ask questions, what else do we have? Carrie Lake exposed, was it Jeff DeWitt, Gail, that she literally wore a mic while he was in her house, it sounded like, and completely exposed him for the swamp rat that he was, and on full display for the country to see. This is how it's done, people. We'll get you a job, we'll get you a contract, we'll do this, just go away. And you know how hard it is to stand sometimes in the face of that, because you don't know what people are going through behind closed doors. You don't know what latest tragedy has hit their family that they're navigating. So that's why I say people are a mixed bag. You don't have the full picture. And until we start connecting, so I love talking with people like Gail, connecting with real people who you know are at least try and do the right thing 90% of the time. What's your take? That's why I asked her about Doug Logan, because I remember in this shed being on the phone with that guy one night around the same time she's talking about, September-ish of 2021. The media rushed and made it look like, oh, the audit, look, it proves Biden actually won. I'll never forget that either. And me being on the phone with him because we thought we were going to bring the Maricopa audit to Pennsylvania and that was going to save everything. And he sounded like a genuine guy. So that's why I'm asking her, like, what's your take? And it's so comforting for me to hear you go, I don't know, because I don't know either. But if we don't keep asking questions, especially from people that start presenting these red flags, we will never fix this country, regardless. That's why President Trump's first term was only so successful. He is still surrounded by swamp rats, you guys, still. Susie Wiles, I hear, is one of them. She's his chief of staff. You know how people get there? They stop asking questions. So I'm sorry if it makes you uncomfortable. We're not going to stop asking questions of Scott Presler until he comes clean and answers our concerns. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. We're doing what we think is the right thing. Is what it is. Do you care to weigh in on that? Because I know you got a little bit of a perspective there.
Oh, I definitely have a perspective on a couple of things there. Well, one thing is, first of all, I have been going back. We kind of talked about Pressler earlier on, and I want to bring it up again too. First of all, thank you for bringing it up again, because it's so important that we really convince everybody to vote on election day. How do you think we won in 2016? The reason why we won is we outperformed the algorithm. That's how we won. Okay, that's it. We showed up and their algorithm was pre-programmed and we beat it. Okay, when you show, that's it.
And when they didn't expect the mail ballots.
You give those
COVID was planned. Let's put on the tinfoil hat. COVID was planned to steal the 2020 election. Okay, I don't even care if I get kicked off of YouTube for saying that. That's where we're at, people. Go ahead, Gil.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And the reality is that we need to make sure that everybody understands you must vote on election day unless you are an invalid. But more importantly, we need to talk to our legislators and make sure that they understand that you will support one day, one vote in person, counted by ballots with ID, counting the ballots by precinct, with ID. We need that. You need to be an American citizen to vote. These things are just common sense, people, common sense, and we can do it. And remember, the average precinct is 1,100 people across the United States, according to Chat GPT, easy for me to say.
I screw that up too. My kids are always yelling at me, Mom, it's GPT.
Yeah. I love ChatGPT or Grok or AI is, our friend these days in some ways. In other ways, it can, yeah, right. You got to be careful. But
yeah, go back and talk about Presler, because you've been after. I stayed quiet for a long time, which I've
been after him for 2 years. Yeah. 2 years. When he came into Arizona and Easy AZ was having some kind of event, and I called the woman who was in charge of it, Marissa Hamilton, and I said, listen, I need to talk to him directly. I need to. She's like, well, Gail, I don't want you to make a big deal, because she knew how I was about it. And I said, well, then you're going to get me a private meeting with Scott. And she did. So I had a private meeting with Scott. I explained to him the dangers of early voting, how they use it, exactly how they do it. And he said, Gail, thank you so much for talking to me. I understand that. I've been told that before, but I don't care. And that's the bottom line. He doesn't care. He went right out at that meeting afterward and encouraged everybody to register to vote, and not only that, but to sign up to vote early. And then use his app, Early Vote Action, full circle, Superfeed. Jeff DeWitt, by the way, is part of Superfeed. The same Jeff
Who built the
DeWitt
app? Yeah, great.
that with Carrie Lake. Yeah, a part of the Superfeed. All you have to do is go to your phone, look at the Early Vote Action app. Don't download it. Don't give them a dime, but you can see Superfeeds on there. This
I
is
still even
all
have it on
about
my phone. I never even took it off. I still have it. I need to take it off.
Yeah. Yeah, no, don't use it. Don't support Scott Pressler. Do not support early voting. You know, we must show up on election day to vote, my friends. This is how we have to do it. We have to do it, and we had to be prepared to hand count. You know, Linda Rance, Mark Cook, get them on there. We got to share the ways to do it. There's a lot of different ways to incorporate this in there, but you know, hand counting the ballots is the only legitimate way to do this right now. We have senators and House of Representatives that are thinking that holographic paper is going to make a difference. It's really not. It's actually deterring from the fact that they can still be compromised. If it's holographic or not, Brian Ramirez or someone in the Maricopa County actually deleted and replaced 150,000 ballot images.
So let me, Brian Ramirez, the name you just mentioned, was in the video that we played from your Twitter that showed back in 2022 he was pulling shenanigans, and you're telling me he's still there in that same role?
Yes. Oh, yeah. He's still there. 2020, mind you. That was 2020, 2022. And now, so when Stephen Richer was the Republican recorder, Democrat plant Republican recorder, who, by the way, when Mike Lindell sent me a lot of information early on in 2021, I brought it to Richer, showing him how the information was, you know, the votes were swapped and everything like that. He looked right at me and everybody else and says that these machines are not connected to the internet and this could never have happened. And so that was early on. I've got a video of that as well. The whole thing, it's just crazy. Anyway, bottom line is that Richer in his lame duck session, he wanted out, heat strong. A lot of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, the heat is getting on them, right? They decided to resign, bring new blood in, ignorant blood in. But they did in their lame duck session, what they did is that they removed the power of the entire IT department from the recorder's office, who is Justin Heath, to the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. So Justin Heath, the recorder, has no access really to anything that has to do with the computer system, in which the recorder of the votes has no access to the recording of the votes. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors does. And so he has been fighting to change this shared service agreement and to bring it back. And I was in contact with Justin again today about the this Brian Ramirez thing, and just saying, you do realize this is the reason why they took him away from you, and they took all of the IT away from you. I mean, he's like, well, it could be. And I'm like, no, it is. I mean, because if we can get rid of Brian Ramirez, at least that would give us some peace of mind that, you know, if they brought in a new database administrator, they wouldn't conform to what he has already done, that we have him on video doing. In fact, I also today filed a complaint with the FBI, and I am asking that Director Kash Patel look into Brian Ramirez. I would like him to come in. Yeah, I want him to come in and look at this data, look at this evidence that Jeff O'Donnell has put together, that Matt Van Bieber has put together, that We the People AZ Alliance have put together here, Shelby Bush and the group, you know, that we have got all of this information. Kash Patel, we need you to do this. I emailed Abe Hamadeh, Congressman Abe Hamadeh, who has been a fighter for election integrity as well. If we can get, I feel like, even if we can't get rid of the machines in Arizona, before the primaries, getting him out of there would just be a little bit more peace of mind. And who knows if, they put a little pressure on him, maybe he'll squeal. And God save him from being suicided. I mean,
We don't
because
want
you know how that goes too.
don't want to be
I'm
Clinton.
not, I don't, I'm not wishing any harm on this man. I do want justice, and I do want accountability for the fact that he has broken the law. We have him on video, 100% breaking the law, and there needs to be accountability. And
And
he
all
should
the
no
more
longer be in
reason
there.
all the more reason why you and I are really concerned when somebody like, I'm sorry, Scott Pressler comes along. I'm sorry if you're still on his side, guys, and you haven't started asking any questions. I'm not telling you have to hate him. I'm not telling you how to think about him. I'm telling you start asking some questions, because that's how her and I have been on the ground. Look at the fight that we're still dealing with, because probably, Gail, I can't unsee what I've seen. I wish I could.
Right.
If someone had a Men in Black stick, put me back to sleep. I'll go enjoy my life with my 3 kids and my husband, and it'll be like none of this happened. Unfortunately, we can't do that, and I can't just let it go. And so when we see people like Pressler coming up with these appears to be gimmicky things that it's really simple to explain to the public. I go through this in my article. I get the argument of why people are jumping on the early voting bandwagon and the mail ballot bandwagon, because at a glance at the data, it looks like that's why we're losing. Guess what? We thought the same thing in 2021, 2022. We just got to play their game. But the more we dug and we started to expose and uncover, we found that it is a rigged system, but it's a heck of a lot easier to get famous and raise a ton of money off of the surface, which is we just got to chase mail ballots. We just have to push ballots. Why do you think that her and I are sounding the alarm on the ground the way that we are? Because we know what we're talking about. So just people, please just start asking some questions. And when Brandon, again, I talked about this in the article, when Brandon Strzok came out and put his video, I know there was multitude of reactions. Some people going bonkers, saying Brandon was jealous and that was petty, and other people were coming to his aid. And then you had everything in the middle where people are starting to go, okay, wait, why are you doing? Just today, he was on Twitter asking Scott some questions and putting in there messages that I had sent him from people in Lancaster on the ground who publicly came out and said he didn't do anything with the Amish. We did. He's taking credit for our work. These are real people that I know that I sent him. Brandon posted them on Scott's Twitter, and instantly Scott hid them. See, he won't block Brandon, which I really don't get why. He won't blocks the rest of us, but he won't block Brandon.
Yeah, he blocked me a long time ago.
He blocks everybody. Yeah. And if you're disrespectful and you're being like a troll and you're cussing, I get it, because I do that. I went right, but that wasn't me either, and that wasn't a lot of us that are somewhat level-headed still, that are connecting and asking some questions. He's not blocking Brandon, but he hid those text messages, or they were responses on a Facebook. Why the hiding? That's what has all of us collecting and going even more like, hello, red flags, people, not transparency. That's not conservative. That's not MAGA. We need to doge it all at every level. I hope I never get to the point where I don't want my work questioned. That is like the biggest red flag ever. And if you want to leave your head stuck in the sand because maybe you had a good experience, I will admit this too. I have people in Pennsylvania that have supported Audit the Vote from day one, great patriots doing great work that had legitimate good experiences with them. And I'm not discounting that at all. I'm just saying, maybe let's ask some questions. That's all. Isn't that what we all woke up to in the first place in 2020 and said, something might be wrong here? Maybe it's not. Maybe he has some data that we didn't see. Maybe there's something else. Of course, at this, I'm just, placating, but.
Well, if I could, I just really want to give you an opportunity to share the data that you did find, Toni, because you did the research. And this is one of the reasons, like, you asked the questions and you did the research and you showed, based upon the data, not theory, but fact, that what he is claiming is not true. Could you just please, for your audience and mine, reiterate the data that you found as far as the flipping of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, the low propensity, I think what you're referring to, and I didn't give Joel the graphic, so unfortunately we can't pull that up. But the real red flag that went off for us was the Lancaster special election that just happened in February. For those that are following closely, Lancaster, Pennsylvania in February, and then shortly thereafter, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race that was lost. That was the real red flag because it was very obvious. Turnout was low, which is normal, unfortunately, for special elections and primaries. It wasn't unusually low. It's always low. So that we can't say, well, it was turnout. Well, it's always turnout. That's just how this works, unfortunately. We broke down the Republicans, unless Joel, close, buddy. We'll get there. Almost. It's the other one with the blue lines. If you have that. Oh, I put it in the article. Look at that. So I had a moment of smartness right there. If you see Malone on is the Democrat candidate, Parsons is the Republican candidate, and then there's the third party. And the blue bars are representative of the Democrats who requested mail ballots, Republicans who requested mail ballots. So these are people that quote unquote vote early. When Pressler says go vote early, you have to in Pennsylvania request a mail ballot. And then there's the third party that requested mail ballots. It's the light blue line. And then the number of returned mail ballots, because they don't all get returned. Maybe they get bounced back, which is kind of an area where you could get into some shenanigans. If you sign somebody up for a mail ballot that doesn't permanently live in Pennsylvania and they move, they don't keep the voter rolls clean around here. So it's very possible that these things could end up bouncing in the future and end up in some random bin somewhere at a post office, or who knows where they could be stuffed and filled. So the middle blue line is the returned ones, the ones that the county actually got back and they ended up going through a tabulator of some sort and being counted. And then the dark blue line on the end is how many votes came from those mail ballots for the parties in question there. So the Democrats, what you're seeing, that dark blue line shows you that the Democrat candidate got more votes than the returned mail ballots from their own party. So that tells you it had to have come from either the Republicans or the third party. And the trend is the exact, it's literally showing you right there. Look at the middle. It says the dark blue line is less Republican votes from the Republicans who returned mail ballots. The candidate got less votes. And the same thing, even worse, in the third party. Look at the third party, 1,326 third party, either independent or not affiliated in Pennsylvania, that is, returned a ballot. Only 173 of those voted for the third party candidate. Well, where did it go? Well, it looks to me like it went for the Democrat. Because how did the Dem get over 1,200 more votes than ballots? It came from the other two. This is why the strategy he's pushing is a losing game. Trump was an anomaly. Now, Joel, go back up. So the argument that they're making, that they're riding the train of is, well, Trump won 2024. So it worked. There was this huge push. He said, vote early, vote by mail, swamp the vote. Didn't it work? No, it didn't. You analyze the results that we have access to. They won't give us cast vote records, but they'll give us, we can at least figure out who requested a mail ballot, who returned a mail ballot. And what this is showing you is 40% of the mail ballots, as we look at them, that came from Republicans in 2024, those same people voted in person in 2020. So you can't say it was an increase. Yes, more Republicans requested mail ballots. Yes, more Republicans returned mail ballots in 2024 when compared to 2020, but 40% of them voted in person. So you literally just converted people. And how many people do you know that were confused and said, well, I would vote in person, but Trump's saying vote by mail and vote early, so I'm just going to do that. Exactly. They just converted. So the win didn't come from chasing low propensity voters or newly registered voters, better yet, because only 20,000 newly registered Republican voters, that because we can capture 2024, how many newly registered Republican voters were there? You just sort by the date they first registered. Only 20,000 of them voted early, and Trump won the state by over 100,000 votes. I feel like a broken record. I've explained this so much, but to your point, Gail, you have a new audience, so maybe this will be helpful for them to understand. 20,000 newly registered Rs voted early. That also did not give Trump the victory. What gave him the victory was the eyes on the ground, the fact he had massive turnout, and I can't discount that. Massive turnout, Trump on the ticket makes a difference. No question there whatsoever. That is also in the data. But there's this little thing no one talks about called Act 88 that was passed right before the midterms that kept the counties from being able to stop counting. They couldn't. It put it in law. You can't stop. Once you start, sorry, we don't care if you have to take no dose, snort a line of coke, whatever it is, you are finishing the count of these ballots. So they couldn't stop counting, and they couldn't find ballots for weeks afterwards because they also had to report how many outstanding ballots were left to be counted by midnight on election night. None of those measures were in place in 2020, which is how they were able to pull the lever, stop the count, find ballots for a week. They couldn't do that again. And that is how Trump won Pennsylvania. We go down this early vote, swamp the vote, just vote early. It is going to lead to the blue lines that you just saw because, oh, by the way, that's what happened in the 2022 midterms that cost Mastriano. And it gave us Mr. Potato Head, who's kind of turning out to be a little more conservative than anyone expected. Fetterman versus Oz, by the way, same trend, less Republicans voting than Republicans who return mail ballots. It also gave us our 2023 massive statewide loss on 4 statewide judge races: Supreme Court, Commonwealth, Superior Court, and I can't remember the fourth one off the top of my head. We had 4 statewide judges run in 2023. They all lost. Really? Really? And then a year later, Trump pulls out a win? Come on. So, I think that was everything. I'll shut up and give it back to you, Gail. Comments, please.
Yeah.
Comments,
insults. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Well, here's the thing. It really goes back to the fact that we have computers, and computers can do whatever they want to do, and nobody will be able to see it because they will not give us access to it. And so these early votes are the database administrators' gold. Okay, because they can watch exactly what's happening as they are coming in. So they're in the Dominion systems, for instance, you could actually do a command to see what the vote counts are, and it would not even register in the system logs. So you wouldn't even know that they were checking on that. So yeah, what a concept. So the bottom line is early voting is giving the database administrators the data in advance in order to provide the programming that is necessary to create the algorithm. Although the algorithm, we found was matched, throughout many counties. I'm not, I don't think I don't exactly know what the exact thing is that they're doing, but I do know that Dr. Frank talked about the Excel spreadsheet and having the exponential. I can't remember what the terminology is, but
degree polynomial something.
Polynomial, that's it. And that polynomial is the exact polynomial that they were just found in. And we were talking about this in 2020 with Dr. Frank. That polynomial is the same thing that they just found in Arapahoe County, bringing it back. And that is in trial today. So we know that there's only so much that the math can do with these computers, but these computers indeed are able to manipulate the votes. They're able to, like I said, they deleted ballot images, they replaced them, they brought in, when they do an audit, they brought in ballots that were stuffed into ballot boxes that we were counted. And so I was out there, and again, doing my citizen journalism, talking to people like Ken Bennett, he was out there saying, oh, well, Biden won. That's what the audit said. And I'm like, counterfeit ballots don't count, Ken. You can't count counterfeit ballots. If you're just, monopoly money put in with real money doesn't mean that you can spend it. Okay. And so counterfeit ballots don't count. They insert counterfeit ballots. And, this is what they do. They do partial audits, which do not reflect it, especially you see some, elections are down to 1 vote. So 1 and 2 votes. So you really seriously, we need to go back to getting rid of these machines and making sure that we get rid of them. And I love what Mike Lindell says. He says that we just need to burn these machines and turn the metal into jail bars. And I hope that we do that, we just need to melt these machines as fast as we can. And, I do want to encourage people as we wrap this up. I know that, to donate to the Lindell Offense Fund, his Toni mentioned that at the beginning. This is a huge court case that's coming up with, and on June 2nd. And, be in prayer about this because, Mike has given everything, given it all to, make sure that we understand that grassroots people like Toni and I and, many others all across the United States have just, Cause of America, by the way, and all of the people representing every state in the union, doing what they can to make sure that we all know that, what we know, and now they know we know. And so we just got to pray that whatever happens, unfortunately, it's in Colorado, that this judge is going to be hearing the case, but that God would intercede on all of this, and there we would finally be free of these machine count votes and follow the Help America Vote Act, which can actually go through all across the United States and says that we can go back to paper ballots. Nothing precludes us or prohibits us from going back to paper ballots, hand counting the paper ballots.
Amen.
In all federal elections.
This is my official take on Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell gets an unlimited amount of grace from me because even though like I said, everyone's a mixed bag. Yes, he said things that didn't come to fruition the way we all thought they were. He made claims. This is the biggest thing I struggle with on the ground, Gail. I don't know if you do too, but are the elected officials in positions of power that could chuck the machines, that could choose to not renew machine contracts, and they could take us back to hand counting the paper. That I believe they're looking for an excuse. They don't want to believe any of this because it is too painful. The truth is kind of too painful. And so they use look, Lindell, he's crazy. He was proved wrong, that kept out of court. Same thing they say about Trump from 2020, all the 60 some lawsuits.
Carrie Lake.
Right. Same thing. And I get where you're coming from. I get it. But that man laid it all on the line. This is why I still trust his heart. Maybe not some of the information he puts out because he's a little bit, he's an ex-addict. What are you going to do? But I love the guy. His heart is in the right place. And I do recommend supporting him if you can in this fight, because if it wasn't for him, people like me and Gail wouldn't be here. He was our voice. He was only one with a large platform at the time who wasn't in jail for January 6th and who was willing to risk his entire fortune because he thought that if he could get evidence before the courts, that's how he went through $60 million of his personal fortune, blew through it all, thinking if he hired the right attorneys and got the right information in front of a court, we could fix this mess. And if you remember back, he kept saying, we're going to get President Trump back in the White House. He had a plan at the time. It just didn't pan out the way that any of us thought it would. But the guy's heart is in the right place. And June 2nd in Denver, Colorado, he is going up against Eric Coomer, who I think is the CEO of Dominion, in a defamation lawsuit. Defamation is very difficult to prove. Even though the judge is corrupt, I think Mike's got a good shot. And better yet, just might be able to get some of that Mesa County, Colorado stuff on court record. Oh, we might just be able to get some stuff on court record that's been stiff-armed up to now that will vindicate and validate everything that we've been saying for the last 4 years. So be in prayer for that. The link is in the chat. Consider it. I tell people all the time, everybody needs money. Everyone in this movement has their hand out. Just pray. If you can't even feed your family, maybe you just need to give some time. Maybe you just need to give some prayer. I would never, ever, ever become one of these people that is in this thing to get multi-million-dollar wealthy, but we do have bills to pay. Be in prayer. If you feel a tug in your gut and Lindell just has a special place in your heart like he does mine, again, unlimited amount of grace, because he is the reason why we even have a platform to speak. If he had stayed quiet, everybody else they were throwing in jail for January 6th. Brandon Strzok was dealing with, jail and muzzles and ankle bracelets. I heard somebody on a space say, well, I called you to come out to New Jersey a couple years ago or whatever, and you couldn't come. The dude had an ankle bracelet on, I think, maybe not an ankle bracelet. He was on probation until he was pardoned. He literally couldn't travel. So what did you expect? I mean, it was like a literal takedown of our country. And Lindell just risked it all. And he's still willing to risk it all. But he doesn't have the resources anymore that he used to have. And he could use our help. So if it tugs at your heart, please consider going to that website, or by the least go to My Pillow, support My Pillow, whatever is left. I know they're having supply chain issues because Lindell's struggling to pay his bills, but the stuff is really good. I have never ordered anything from his website that I did not like, that the quality wasn't good. I don't know if, Gail, you have a promo code. Certainly, if she does, shout it out. If not, mypillow.com. Is it Gail? G-A-I-L.
Yep. Gail, promo code Gail. Absolutely. Absolutely want to.
Father's Day is coming up. Get your Father's Day
Yes.
gifts at mypillow.com and use promo code Gail.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or if you're in Pennsylvania, if you're in Arizona, use Gail. If you're in Pennsylvania, use ATVPA. I don't care. Just support the guy. We're in this together.
Just support Mike as much as you can. Yeah, absolutely. You really laid it out there so beautifully, and I appreciate your passion and the way you just shared that information about Mike, because he is he's an incredible man, and God is with him, and God be with him in this whole thing. I think similar to, maybe, I'm not trying to give too much grace to Karen Fan because I don't know what her intentions were, because $400 million, but sometimes you just get bad advice.
Yes.
And you just you go with it. And I know that I filed multiple lawsuits along the way too. That's another thing that I did in this pro per, whatever you want to call it, by myself without an attorney, because I could not find an attorney in Arizona to represent me. But the bottom line is that when push comes to shove, when he goes to attorneys, he would tell me, Gail, I don't know, talk to maybe a Kurt Olson or somebody, just to see, because he doesn't know. And but he'll repeat what he's been told. And that's where he is in a lot of this stuff, and
the president is doing the same thing. You think Trump is perfect? Everybody that, we can't follow him off a cliff either, people. Come on.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we could go into a whole rabbit hole of a lot of things.
We'll have you back.
Where
we will definitely have you back.
Awesome. Would love to be back. It's been a pleasure, a treat to just really, go over so many different elements of, what's going on with our country. And truly, I posted today, I wanted to talk about how you can help. And again, we'll just go back to becoming a precinct committeeman, file a lawsuit, get in contact with your representatives. That's the key. Your relationship is key. This is a constitutional republic, and you have representatives. Use your voice. Do you think I'm afraid to admit it, but even as a young adult, I didn't even understand that we had, more than a Congress, that we even had a state representative and a state house and a state senate. I didn't even get that.
I was calling them Congress, Gail. Somebody corrected me in March of 2020. They were like, Toni, it's not Congress. That's DC. It's the Pennsylvania General Assembly. I was like, oh God. Okay.
Right. I mean, we are all learning, just always be learning. And, but if you love our country, this is the time to fight, just fight. We must continue to fight, because we are not out of it yet. And these primaries make a difference. And if we can get rid of these machines, we are going to be able to restore our country. I am confident of it. I am 100% confident of it, because not one election number that we see can be counted on as true and accurate in this country right now. I encourage you all to vote, but I encourage you to vote on election day. Do not get the database administrators the data that they need in advance. Show up, surprise them, and remind Turning Point USA and Scott Pressler of the same every chance you get, please. Thank you.
I'm seeing a ton of stuff in the chat. Free Tina Peters. Absolutely free Tina. We covered a lot of stuff tonight, but Gail, we got to connect more. I know I have good connections in Georgia. We have to get the swing states, the boots on the ground in the swing states, to get together more so we can share what's really going on, because there's really no one good media source that is my go-to. That Bongino used to listen to Bongino. Now, now he's in the FBI fighting his own stuff. It's hard to find who to trust. And so if nothing else, share this. If you'll share out, Gail has a Rumble channel. I put the links, Gail, in the description on all Audit the Votes socials of all of the different ways they can follow you. What you can do to support us. If you don't have money or time and you're not a Christian and you don't pray, share our stuff, because that's what gets us more likely to hit the algorithm, bigger followings, a bigger voice, so we can drown out the corrupt mainstream media and we can get good people that are on the ground. We'll know like at least who to trust. We shouldn't even, the founders, by the way, said we shouldn't even trust each other. It's the power of our constitutional republic. They knew the sin nature of man. They had an incredible distrust of power. They tried to build a system to the best of their ability, I believe by God's design, to keep the power spread out and balanced in as many hands as it could. And it took decades for us to get here. The deep state didn't just pop up and spring up overnight, and it's certainly not going to get rooted out overnight. But I do believe that God is going to use it, and we are going to be able to restore this country and pass it to the next generation. So unless you hate America, Liberty Lion, yes. Unless you hate America, at least like and subscribe and share our stuff. That takes nothing. It doesn't take any of your money, none of your, some of your time, I guess. But that is, you can make a big impact. If we could get bigger followings, bigger platforms, again, monetize these flipping accounts, and it could be revenue sources so that we could keep going and not have to ask you for money all that often. I think Facebook, we're up to $10. I think we've made $10 this month on Facebook. Cha-ching! Rumble, we might be at like 4 or 5. Woohoo! But you know what? It does pay for some stuff. We have the extra Chat GPT thing. That's $20 a month. So there, our socials are paying our Chat GPT. StreamYard's $100 a month. All these little things like add up for us to be able to keep doing this. So every little bit counts. Joel, do we have, Gail, I like to close my podcast every week with a funny video, because a lot of the topics that we talk about are so heavy and kind of dark, and laughter is what pulls me out of the muck and the mire when I'm down in the dumps, which happens unfortunately more often than not. So Joel always picks out a good funny video for us. Although last week was a little weird, buddy. I'll give you that. It was weird. I'm not sure what we watched. If you have something funny, exactly, Veronica, that's my choice. Trust in God only. Jesus is the only unchanging thing on this planet, period, case closed. And I quite frankly just don't know how people survive that don't have that worldview. But I support the right to worship or not worship as you see fit, because that's what keeps us free. Joel, yeah, if you've got that funny video, there's more and more people popping on. I don't know, maybe the secret is talking longer and then more people will want to watch. But no funny video. Oh, Joel, no, this is the first time he's let me down with no funny video. Gail, you were going to say something. Go for it. Maybe I'll try to find something while you entertain everybody. Tap dance for me.
Who, Joel?
No, I said you tap dance while I look for something funny.
Oh, right. It's like, we're bringing Joel in. No, you know what? I hear it. You know what? I like the way that that you do that. But you know what? Here's the thing. If we don't have a funny video, we can always claim. We can always close in prayer, and that would be fine as well.
You know what? Let's do that. I think there's a reason we don't have a funny video. I will, if you will do the honors, close us in prayer, and we will see you guys next Wednesday at 9:00. So let's bow our heads. Yeah, I'll let you.
Okay. Very good. Heavenly Father, we just lift up this country too, Lord Jesus. We want to have every ballot count as cast again, Lord. We just ask that you would help each and every one of us, lift our voices. Lord, we ask for protection over this country. We ask protection over the patriots, Lord. We ask for protection over our justice system, right, Lord? We just need that our justice system would serve us, Lord Jesus, that it would serve the people as it was meant to be, God. We just ask that the constitutional republic be restored, and that we continue to look to the Constitution for the answers, Lord, and to you, of course, first and foremost, God. We ask for this word that we share today, that the truth be exposed, because we know in your word that the truth shall set us free, and freedom and liberty is what we all wish for. God, I pray for the prisoners that are still in jail, even to this day, for J6, and of course, Tina Peters. Lord, we ask that she be released, Lord Jesus. There is a will, there is a way, and we have the will, the people that want to do that. This woman is an American hero, God. We ask for her protection in this prison, God. We just ask that she continue to be protected, God. We ask that all that serve this country, Lord, that they would seek you first in their decisions, and that they would listen to their constituents first, Lord, and that the bravery and the courage would come from you, Lord, and that we rebuke all the demons in Jesus' name. We rebuke these demons that have come through this country, and that we just ask for a restoration of glory. In your name, Jesus Christ, we ask this. Amen.
Amen. Divine appointment tonight. Thank you guys for watching. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Over and out.